Welcome to another episode of the Relentless CEO podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kifer. Today we're going to be talking about how happiness directly relates to power and how you can leverage power to actually increase the happiness in every area of your life. Now, some of you guys hear the word power and we think evil right away because you think like supervillains, and every media outlet, every movie, TV show, the rich guy is always the bad guy, right? So it usually means that the powerful people are evil or something like that. But I'm not talking about that type of power. Really what I'm talking about is the power you have over your own life, the power you have over your health, your growth, your inner circle, all of those things. So this sort of came to a revelation with me. I started working out with Ross Levine. So if you guys in the martial arts world may know him, he was a top NASCAR competitor for a while. He's a current karate combat champion. Definitely knows what he's doing. But I did my first workout with him that he set up for me, and it took me so long to get through, and I was so sore afterwards. But I had a revelation after I did the workout. What I realized was the way that I was training with him and the focus that he's putting into different muscles and training different muscles in different ways that I wasn't used to, I felt like it gave me power or control over my fitness again, because I felt like I was training really hard to get ready for fight. I got to a certain level and I was feeling good, and then I sort of plateaued at that level. And I feel like for a little bit I lost power over my health and fitness. And then Ross sort of gave me the missing pieces to help regain that power in my life. And I think one of the biggest problems that entrepreneurs face that stops them from getting power over their own life and actually creating happiness as a result is the ability to say I fucked up. Because to me, like, the biggest difference between someone struggling and someone that you just look at them and it just seems like everything's so easy, not saying it is, but it seems like everything's so easy and they're constantly hitting new levels of success, is that person that's hitting new levels of success has gotten way better at being able to say I fucked up than the person that's struggling. Because in most cases, if you're struggling in your business, you're struggling in your personal life, a lot of times it's due to giving the power in your life to everyone else around you. And how does that happen? Well, that happens because you start blaming other things and other people for what's happening in your life instead of taking complete ownership over it. And what happens is when I start pointing to other people or start placing the blame in different areas, essentially I'm giving away the power to be able to make drastic changes in those areas. So for example, if you guys are struggling to get your business growing, but you're saying, man, I think it's the location that I'm in, or, you know, it's because I don't have X, Y, or Z, or it's because I haven't learned how to do this. For me, all of those are excuses that can become overcome. All of those things can become overcome. So when we start thinking about like location, it's probably the biggest excuse I hear with like new coaching clients is like, oh, in my town or in my area, this doesn't work. And it's like, no, it doesn't work because you don't have systems for it. Or no, it doesn't work because you haven't actually fully committed and gone all in on yourself to make this business the best it can possibly be. So anytime that we get in the habit of like even starting to think about blaming someone else or something else, I want you guys to stop and think about that. It's not like removing blame from yourself. What it is really doing is you're giving away power. Okay, if let's say I was extremely overweight, right? And let's say I was struggling with my health and fitness, it might be that I'm blaming outside sources for those things. Instead of just saying, you know what, it's my responsibility. I'm not doing the things I need right to make myself healthy, whether it's eating correctly, whether it's working out, whether it's supplements, whatever it is. Maybe it's you haven't been to like a doctor to get a blood lab or a physical in years, so you don't even know what your body is telling you. But as soon as you take full control and say, hey, you know what, I have the power to change this, you have the power to change it. But as long as you're blaming on outside elements and outside people, again, you're giving away all that power, which means you're not even going to start looking for a solution because you don't think it's up to you to find a solution in the first place. So all of this I'm tying back into sort of how I started to figure out that power was a direct relation to the happiness in my life. And I think for part of this is, besides the working out for me, and we'll stick with health because I think it's the easiest right now, it's also just like taking full responsibility for actually like knowing what your body is doing, what your body's lacking, and all of those things. So in addition to like this training part, I've been working with like 10X Health and a local doctor here, Sarah Shell, and we get blood labs every 90 days. We go in and we get all of my vitals checked. We see where my vitamin D is, testosterone, all of those things. And to me, I used to neglect those things because I was like, well, I just don't know about those things. So how am I supposed to fix it? Again, that's giving power away to someone else for what my health should be. So as soon as I stopped that, got my act together, did some research, did some studying, find the right people to work with, all of a sudden I'm healthier and more energetic than I feel like I've ever been in my life. And that's a direct result of me taking back the power in that area. Okay, how many of us think when we hear numbers like KPIs and stats about your business, well, I'm not good at numbers. Okay, stop saying you're not good at numbers, because again, you're giving the power away for you to be good at numbers. Okay, if you say, hey, I don't know what these numbers mean, but I'm going to do everything I can to learn about them, much different approach. Now you are going to be solution focused instead of just thinking, well, there's nothing I can do because I don't know about numbers. I don't know how to track these. I don't know how to do any of these things. It's about being proactive, and it all starts with your belief system. And when we change the belief, okay, then also we get the power back, and then we can make action steps in the right direction to help us grow and regain the power in those different areas of our life. I'm also going to say the same thing. I won't touch on this too much because we've done it before, is in our relationships, right? A lot of times we are blaming the other person in the relationship for things that are going wrong. Okay, again, when we're doing that, it's giving away power, saying that, hey, I can't fix that because it's not my fault. Again, I think the best thing that you can practice if you're listening to this and you want to keep growing your business and keep growing as a CEO or entrepreneur is just get used to saying, I fucked up. And then think, as soon as you say that, think in your head, well, what did I fuck up on? What did I make a mistake on that I can go back and fix so this doesn't happen again? Or that I can go back and fix so this relationship gets better, or my business gets better, or whatever it is. Okay, that's always my go-to. Even if I have an employee make a mistake on something, it always comes to me first. I'm like, well, could I communicated that better to them? Okay, did I give them the proper tools? Did I give them the proper support in order to help them? Okay, and it always goes to me first. It's not about like, oh, they suck, they're not a good employee, any of that. It always comes to me first. Now, if I go through all that line of questioning and I'm like, all right, I communicated correctly, I gave them proper support, I did all the training and everything, and now they're making mistakes over and over again, I still went through all my check boxes to make sure that I have power to fix the situation if it can be fixed, okay, if they need more training or they need more hand-holding or whatever it is. And then now that I've gone through all of my check marks to make sure I'm not giving away power, now I can take appropriate actions if we need to have a talk with them, if we need to write them up or whatever it might be. Let's talk about another way to gain power in life. And this is probably what I see handicap the most people on the way to success. And it's really just flexing that id-gaff muscle, that I don't give a fuck muscle. I think too many of us are worried about other people's opinions of us, or worried about what other people are going to think if we take certain actions. Who gives a fuck what other people think? The most important thing for you to do is what's going to set you up best in life. Because if your long-term goal is to take care of your family or to take care of your employees or team members or whatever, none of that can happen unless you're taking care of yourself first. Okay, so you have to make sure that regardless of what anyone else tells you, that you're making a priority to take care of your health. You're making it a priority to make sure that you feel good and you're energized every day. So you're working out like you're supposed to, you're reading, you're learning, you're growing, all of that stuff. Because as long as you're doing that and putting the focus into that, it makes it so much easier to be a leader. It makes it so much easier to train other people, to mentor other people, but it all starts with you at the end of the day. And for example, if let's say 1 to 10 scale, 10 is like you are absolute kicking ass, like highest level that you could be in your role, and 1 is you're doing absolutely zero. Okay, let's say right now you're at a 7. Okay, and you gain enough knowledge and experience that you're at a 7. What that means is every single person that you train and hire, the highest level they can ever get to is a level 7, because they can't learn more than you from you, right? So if I want to make sure that I have a rock star team, the only way this team develops is into rock stars is if I become a rock star first. So I need to elevate to level 8, so now I can bring them up to level 8. And then I got to keep working on myself so I can go to level 9, and then I can move my team or move the people around me to level 9, because I'm constantly amassing more experience and knowledge to be able to share and help them with those different things. And don't get me wrong, guys, knowledge through books and courses and mentoring is awesome, and it is 100% needed in life. But also, knowledge gained through putting yourself in uncomfortable experiences is almost even more valuable than the knowledge that you're going to be getting from a course or a book, because you learn from the experience itself. Like, I used to be so afraid to have hard conversations with parents at the martial arts school, to have hard conversations with team members, and I would always try and avoid them at every cost possible because I felt uncomfortable. At some point in my life, and I don't know what triggered it, I switched my thinking on it. I switched my belief system behind those conversations to being, oh, this is gonna be awkward, they're gonna hate me, I don't want them to be mad at me type of thing, to, hey, this is gonna be a difficult conversation, but I need to accumulate difficult conversations if I wanna be the best CEO possible. Because I know that this difficult conversation is not gonna be the last difficult conversation that happens. Okay, and if I avoid it now, what's gonna happen the next time I have to have a similar conversation? The same thing's gonna happen. I'm gonna overthink, I'm gonna try and avoid it, I'm not gonna wanna do it. So as soon as I started to think about this as CEO equity that I'm building up with every single hard conversation I have to have, now I look at it as a challenge. Because I'm like, man, I'm going to go into this hard conversation. I'm trying to handle it better than the last one. I'm going to try and make sure I'm providing good service to this person and support, but also delivering the information that they need to hear. And the more I do it, the easier it gets and the better reaction I get from the other side. But you have to look forward to having those hard conversations in your business and with your team, and just see it as building up CEO equity. Okay, you are taking power over your business. Okay, you're taking power over the relationships with your team members because you're having these hard conversations and building up that equity. So don't run from those situations. But going back to this id-gaff muscle, we need to think about the circle that we run with and sort of the words that are going into our brain on a daily basis. Okay, whether it's from TV, whether it's like your family, friends, coworkers, whatever it is, right? And we need to think, how much are we doing on a daily basis to please them? And then how much are we doing on a daily basis to make sure that we are going in the right direction that we need to go, so that we can build a legacy for our family, that we can provide for our spouse and our kids and all of those things. Well, a while back, I was really struggling with a lot of the decisions I had to make in my businesses. And part of it was I was a young entrepreneur managing multiple businesses. But the other side of this was I didn't really have a system or a formula for how to make decisions in my business. I just sort of went by my gut, or sometimes I'd run it by a mentor. And at one point I sat down and I said, you know what, we need a system, or I need a system for how I should make decisions in my business. So there's 3 metrics that I cover every single time I have to make a decision in my business, and it helps every single time to point me in the right direction. And I'm telling you, as soon as I started to use this system, it completely changed my confidence in decision making, and I started to see that the decisions were making in my business became much smarter decisions, because afterwards I still felt good about them. I still felt good. Even if it didn't go 110% like I had hoped, I still was able to learn something to make it better in the long run. So there's 3 things that I look at when making a decision. So number 1 is, does it follow our vision? Is it in line with our vision for 3 years from now? So the decision that I'm making today, is it helping us to get closer to where we're supposed to be in 3 years? If the answer is no, then it's probably a distraction. Okay, or it's probably some shiny new object that's really not going to add a lot of value to where we need to go. So the first thing I check with is, does it align with the vision? Okay, the second thing that I check with is, does it align with the strategy? Okay, so we have a vision in place for what our goal is in 3 years, right? You can't just have a vision, you need a strategy on how to get there. So the next question I ask her, if it meets the vision, does it also meet the strategy? So what that might look like is, my strategy now might be just helping me get to the next benchmark or checkpoint. That's just a run in the ladder on my way to that 3-year goal or vision. Okay, but I also might try and skip ahead sometimes, and might have to sort of roll myself back and be like, hey, I know you want to do that, and I know it's in line with the vision, but it's not part of the right now strategy. So instead, I need to focus on the right now strategy so I can take the steps needed in order to get to that vision, to get to that 3-year goal that we have. Okay, so 1, is it in line with our vision? 2, does it fall into the strategy? Okay, and then the third one is values. Does it fall in line? Does it follow the core values we have for our company and my personal core values? Okay, for me, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, my personal values and company values are pretty similar. Okay. I don't want to do anything in my companies that doesn't feel right ethically based on my personal values. And I don't want any of my team members to do that either. So with that being said, if it hits the first two boxes, but it doesn't fall in line with our values, it is most likely going to be something that's detrimental to our long-term vision. Okay, because my culture is going to start to change to the negative as a result. So for me, when I'm making important decisions, no matter what it is in the business, I'm looking at those three things and it has to check all three boxes for me. Okay, and if I'm not sure if it checks one of the boxes, that's when I bring it to a mentor and say, hey, I see it checks strategy, I see it checks our values, but I'm not sure if this is going to necessarily help us get to where we need to be in 3 years. I need your input on this. That's when I bring it to another person. So one thing to keep in mind is when you guys are making decisions, if you want to keep power over the decisions, make sure that they're actually adding value to the business, use those three KPIs. So just think SVV, so strategy, vision, and values. Okay, and if it checks all three of those boxes, then you have my permission to move forward with that decision, because most likely it's going to be the best for you, and it's also going to be best for the future goals of the company. Okay, and then one last thing I just want to leave you with, and this little bit shorter podcast today, is I remember there was a point in my life where I started to lose power over the business, and luckily I have a good friend in Travis that sort of helped me get my head on straight again. But I felt at some point, as I was starting to pull away from being the day-to-day of the martial arts school and the day-to-day of the agency, I started getting only negative messaging from my team. Like, not complaining, but like whenever there was a problem, that's the only time I'd ever get a message about anything. Never updated on like when we're doing good or anything like that. It was only like, hey, this person didn't pay, this person defaulted on payments, this person canceled. So my original perspective was like, man, being a CEO is hard because all you get are people's problems, and they're just throwing problems at you all day, and you got to juggle these problems, find solutions, all of these things. Okay, so Travis gave me a great piece of advice, and then I'm going to add one thing to it to you guys. Okay, so he's like, Adam, he goes, you got to think macro, not micro. Everything that all these little problems coming to you on a daily basis, these are micro problems, and you're blowing them up in your head to be macro problems when at the end of the day they don't affect what's going to happen in 3 years. So he got me to reprogram my belief system and bring it back around to that vision and sort of where we're going. They're like, hey, does that one cancellation really affect where we're going in 3 years? Absolutely, it doesn't. It doesn't. So I would have to think on a bigger scale and think of that 3-year, 5-year vision. Okay, so that way I'm not putting as much of a personal attachment to all these little problems that are happening. Okay, and then phase 2 of that was getting someone to sort of be the filter, which now we have Kelly as an awesome chief operating officer. She sort of filters those problems first before they have to come to me. Okay, and then the last thing that we'll add to this mix is what I call the 1-3-1 rule. Okay, so this is something that we do this at our martial arts school. We've started initiated it in our other companies as well. But basically, when an employee brings a problem to you, or a team member brings a problem to you, okay, we have a requirement. So if they bring one problem, they have to provide 3 solutions along with that problem when they present it to us. Okay, so let's say there's a problem at your martial arts school with discipline in classes. We're just going to use this as an example. Okay, and a team member comes up and he's like, hey, I don't know what to do. Like, students are going crazy in our little kids class. Like, can you give me some tips? No, that doesn't happen. Instead, they come to us and they say, hey, I'm noticing a discipline problem when I'm teaching the little guys. These are 3 things I thought of that would work as solutions. And then they'll present the 3 solutions, and then they'll highlight the one to me that they think is the best solution. So now, as a CEO, it's saving you guys brain power, because you're not the one that has to come up with all the ideas, okay? You are the person that's just selecting the correct idea for your team to go forward and implement as part of the solution to that problem. So now, instead of me having to problem solve all these different areas in these different companies, now when someone brings a problem, it's like, hey, this is what's happening. These are the 3 options that I think we have. I personally believe this one is the best option, and here is why. Now, perfect world, that option that they choose as the best one aligns with your values, strategy, and vision, and you're like, yes, I agree, it goes forward. That doesn't happen all the time, though. Sometimes they're like, this one is the best, and you're like, no, I think that first one you presented is the best, and here's why. Okay, but now you're using that same thing I taught you earlier about using the three metrics, the SVV, for decision making. And now you're making it even simpler because now they're bringing you solutions, and I just SVV those solutions. So go through each one and be like, does it align with strategy? Does it align with vision? Does it align with values? Do it for each of them. And then filter it down from there if you have more than one that hits all three to what you think is the best one. Worst case, I pick one and it's not the best one. That's fine. We just go back and we fix it for the future. And then maybe we'll go to the previous solution that they provided. You will also have situations where a team member comes and like, hey, here's the problem and here's the three solutions. And you hear those solutions and you're like, Jesus, these are awful solutions. They're terrible. And it's okay to be transparent with your team and to say, hey man, I love that you came to this like solution focus with these three ideas. Would it make sense if, and then I'll propose an alternate thing with the goal of making them feel like it's sort of their idea. I'll be like, hey, I saw you doing this and and I thought, what if we did it this way? Do you think that could work? And then they're like, if they say yes, they think it could work, then what I'm going to do is when that idea works and we're talking about our team meeting, I'm going to be like, man, I'm like, Joseph had the best idea last week. We were talking, he brought this problem to me and he had this idea of XYZ. And I give them the credit for it because I want them to take responsibility for that. I want them to feel like they had a role in creating it. So I will always give them credit for the idea. So that way they can take more ownership over it. So that way they can move forward with it. And as a CEO, you guys should never have to feel like you need to take credit for anything. Okay, only responsibility. Credit goes to your team. So this is just another model of doing that with this 1-3-1 method. So again, 1-3-1, they present one problem, three solutions. They highlight one of the solutions for you, which they think is the best solution. Okay, and then you will go from there, analyzing those three options through the SVV method that we just talked about, so you can make sure that it's aligning with your goals, visions, and strategies. So hopefully today, guys, this podcast just helped you get some clarity and peace of mind on how to make decisions in your business and how to regain power over your life and your business. If there's ever anything that you guys want me to cover more of in this podcast, please let us know in the comments. Shoot us a message. I know we will be doing one coming soon on upgrades and another one on streamlining your team culture and team communication. So look out for those in the next few episodes.